The High Republic. The publishing initiative that somehow proves that Disney is trying to erase KOTOR from history, even though this takes place nowhere near KOTOR in the timeline. For a less cynical explanation, The High Republic is a series of books and comics telling the story of the Jedi from 200 years before The Phantom Menace, when the Jedi and the Republic were both at the height of their power. I thought this sounded like a really cool idea when it was announced last year, but as with any Disney Star Wars property, there was a lot of people complaining that this is horrible and you should never read it. The first book came out in January, and I just never got the chance to read it. I don't know if it was interest or something like that, but I did find it and a few of the other books that had come out since then at my library, so I checked them out. And, well, I've read every single piece of High Republic canon that is currently out there in the span of a week. TLDR, it's all really good. And no need to fear, this is a totally spoiler-free review of the whole series. When I say everything currently available, I mean I've read pretty much everything. Light of the Jedi, the adult novel by Charles Soule, Into the Dark, the young adult novel by Claudia Gray, A Test of Courage, the middle grade book by Justina Ireland, issues 1 to 3 of the High Republic comic by Cavan Scott, and issues 1 to 2 of the High Republic Adventures by Daniel Jose Older. I even read the easy reader Great Jedi Rescue by Cavan Scott, which adds nothing to canon except retells 2 of the chapters from The Light of the Jedi. I don't really know why I read it, but it's got cool art. If my enthusiasm causing me to read this all in a week tells you anything, I've really enjoyed it. One of the big sells of the High Republic was that it was all worked on collaboratively by a bunch of the Star Wars authors in this close-knit group, and that really comes through with how well these books mesh together. In the context of the High Republic, the Jedi have been at peace for years now. There's been skirmishes and small battles, sure, but nothing to really disrupt the calm. The entire catalyst for the series is this thing called the Great Disaster, when debris comes hurtling out of hyperspace, flying straight towards populated planets. The crux of the stories of the 3 books and a couple of the comics is all about how do the Jedi respond to something that breaks the peace. Connecting each story is the themes of grief, loss of identity, and adaptation. Since the Jedi have been at peace for so long, they're not prepared to deal with something this massive. There is some amazing character work in each story about a character losing a friend, or a mentor, or a Jedi Master, or trying to find who they are now that they have to fight. It really surprised me to see all of these themes connecting the stories. Now, I'll try to talk on each in short fashion. The Light of the Jedi is the main book in the series, so everything is kind of built around it. The event and fallout of the Great Disaster is told in great detail here, and a lot of the characters that show up in the other books are introduced for the first time in this one. If there's one High Republic story you need to read, it's this one. It's really, really good. It's got a huge cast of Jedi, Padawans, villains, civilians, but they're each given enough time to grow and change throughout the story. Avar Kriss and Porter Engle are my favorites in particular. And it moves ridiculously fast, but I don't think I was ever left in the lurch. The mentality of the Jedi of this day and age is put on full display, and I found myself contrasting it with the Jedi of the prequel trilogy, just to see how different they are and how far they've fallen. The villain group, the Nihil, present a very unique threat to the Jedi. Marchion Ro, the pseudo-leader of the Nihil, has the potential to become one of my favorite Star Wars villains ever. And when you come down to it, this book just feels like Star Wars. It would be right at home on the big screen, and that's the best compliment I can give it. As for the few things that I didn't like, because there's such a huge cast, some characters that you would like to see get a lot of development don't really, and sometimes the action is just a little hard to follow. But really, those were the only problems I had. I highly, highly recommend this book. My favorite of the group is actually Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. It's the young adult novel, but don't worry, it's just as well written as the main one. It doesn't have as huge of a cast as Light of the Jedi, but that gives it so much more room to work. Reath Silas, a Jedi Padawan who just wants to stay on Coruscant and not go anywhere in the universe, is a fantastic main character, and changes a lot as the book goes on. With particular standouts being Comac Vitus and Geode. The villains of this book aren't as interesting as the Nihil, even though the Nihil do show up. They're called the Drengir, and they're giant plant monsters. They're kinda cool, but mostly serve as plot device to grow Reath's character, which I don't mind. There's a lot of twists and turns throughout, and it was just a really fun time. I read it in about 3 hours. Then there's A Test of Courage by Justina Ireland. This one surprised me a lot because it dealt with some very heavy topics for a middle grade story. All of the main characters lose somebody thanks to a disaster, and when they're stranded on a planet they have to work together despite their grief. I found myself relating a lot to Imri, the Padawan who is always second-guessing his decisions. What can I say, it's a problem. It's definitely a simpler story, and the pacing is a bit weird, so it's probably my least favorite of the books. And then the 2 comics. I mean, I like them. I'm not a huge comic reader, so I don't really know how to talk about them. The art is great in the High Republic. It's weird in the High Republic Adventures. The weirdest thing about the 2 main characters of these comics, Keeve Trennis and Lula Talazola, is that they both look similar and act similar, and I don't know why they're 2 different characters. Skier, the Trandoshan Jedi, gets a lot to do in the High Republic main comic, and Yoda shows up a lot in High Republic Adventures. It's kind of hard to comment on either of them because they're both in the middle of arcs, but what we have so far is promising. If I had to rank my enjoyment of each of the stories, I would put Into the Dark first, then Light of the Jedi, then the main High Republic comic, then Test of Courage, and then High Republic Adventures. If you are looking to read the High Republic, you could probably pick out any book and read it, but to get the full context, I again say read Light of the Jedi. You will not regret it. I really can't say enough that I loved reading all of these over the past week. Even if it's not on-screen Star Wars, it is still 100% Star Wars. Every author working on them so far, even if I didn't like the stuff as much, deserves applause for helping to pull this all together. And really, if you're interested, please check them out. I might do a minifigure series sometime in the future, and if you guys don't know what I'm doing, my videos won't do well, and I need my videos to do well, so please read them. And that's what I think of the High Republic. I am so excited to see where it goes from here. If you have read the High Republic, please tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't read them, go read them. And then tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, until next time, later.